Co-chair.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 11:05 a.m. We have quorum and we can go into roll call now.
All right. Commissioner Cuddy-Eye?
I'm here.
Commissioner Curley is absent today. Co-chair Lance is absent today. And co-chair Zavala?
Present.
Commissioner Francis?
Present.
And Commissioner Husky is absent today. And Commissioner Moana?
Present.
Thank you. And then Commissioner Daryl Marks is absent today. And then Commissioner Marshall?
I'm here.
Thank you. All right, back to you, co-chair.
Wonderful. Do I have any volunteers from our commission for the land acknowledgement this morning, please? Going once, going twice. Am I able to volunteer someone?
I can do it as soon as it pulls up.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Francis.
My computer is just running slow, so give me a second. Okay. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's Indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by Native descendants, border mountains sacred to Indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you, Commissioner Francis. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission on this day. Because of open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. So this section is open to public comment if there's anybody from the public that would like to share some information. Okay. Sounds like we can move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of minutes. We'll start with approval of February 6, 2025 minutes. I'll need a motion to approve and then someone to second that motion.
I'll motion.
All right, we've got Moana, Commissioner Moana motioning. We need a second, correct, Rose?
Right.
This is Commissioner Francis. I second.
Awesome. Okay. Next item will be approval
we need
of
a vote.
Oh, and a vote.
Say aye.
All in favor and approve, a thumbs up or say aye.
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 I'm Marion Marshall.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
Perfect. All right, and now we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from March 6, 2025, please.
I'll motion again.
Thank you, Moana. And a second.
Commissioner Francis, I'll second.
Awesome. All right. All in favor, please vote aye.
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 Thank you. Did you vote, co-chair?
Aye. Yes.
Okay.
In favor. Okay, next agenda item. We don't have any general business at this time. We can move to item number 6A, discussion items, the Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan. And we've got Sarah and Elsa, and Lauren. Everyone presenting on that section today. Great, I'll move it over to you guys.
All right, thanks so much for having us. So we are back to continue the conversation that we were going through last 2 weeks ago about with the comments on the regional plan and some revisions to policies and to other content in the draft. I think we can start with just giving a sense of what this next steps are and where our process is for the regional plan. So we're doing revisions right now through April 16th, and at that point we're going to be sending the draft to council, city council, the board of supervisors for the county, and the planning and zoning commissioners for both the city and county, and they're going to have a retreat on the draft May 2nd, at which point after that we'll do more revisions. So we have a period until the 16th to do revisions, and we can certainly take notes from this conversation and fold them into those revisions, but then we'll have to, if there's things that are more long-term, we'll have to capture them after the May 2nd retreat. So yeah, I sent out an email last time after our last meeting that highlighted some of the goals and policies that are in the draft, and we can start by talking about those. We can also, if there's any comments that commissioners that have notes on or have things that they want to talk about, we can certainly start there as well. And yeah, I don't know if Sarah or Lauren have other things to add, but yeah.
So, Sarah or Elsa, did you get the responses that you asked for?
I didn't see any emails come in from commissioners, but if there's any, yeah, we can talk about it now if anyone has like notes or things that they wanted to bring up, or we can start with policies. We're flexible.
This is Commissioner Lamont, and I had started to go through and kind of document any opinions and comments I had on the Excel sheet. I started doing that, and then life got crazy. And then I wasn't able to attend the special meeting because I had another meeting conflict. So I can finish writing this out if that's something that you still want. I'm almost done. I just didn't finish it all the way. If that's something you're still interested in, I have the timeline to look at.
Sure.
Okay. And where did we get with?
I'm
Sorry. No, you're fine. I was just gonna ask where we got to at the special meeting.
Yeah. So what I had heard from the special meeting is that two things were, one was sort of where could we add some more content within the plan that highlights important aspects of Indigenous culture, Indigenous cultural influence, and also maybe other topics like the contributions to the regional economy. Yeah, and with that, we can add that in some different places. And we wanted to talk about, you know, are there people who can help us write those sections or documents that we could quote from or include or reference to help us bring that in. So that's one item that we talked about, and we can continue talking about today. And then the other thing was looking at the policies. There's an interest in having maybe looking particularly at RS7, which is one of the ones in the email, and how it could be edited maybe to be like a little bit broader, or yeah, kind of revisiting that list of policies. So those were things that I had from our last conversation.
Thank you.
And I would just throw in that we would definitely welcome your written comments when you have the time to get them over to us, if you wanted more time to work on that after today. And if possible, it'd be great to have them maybe by Friday the 11th. So that way we have, because it's there, and Elsa mentioned we need to have all of our things wrapped up by the 16th. So if we were able to get them by, or even by like Sunday the 13th, so that way we had a few working days to incorporate them before we send it out to council and the Board of Supervisors, et cetera.
This is Commissioner Francis. I was wondering that, so I have a couple of questions about the document. Going through it and reading through the spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, there are comments from the community, and then on to the right-hand side, there are the notes from the planning staff. Are you asking again? Because my concern is, will what we present be a part of the document, or are you going to be reviewing it again like these public comments? So are we just contributing additional comments?
I think so, Shirley. I know we presented to Indigenous Commission during the 6-day public review, but it was very late. I think you had a quorum issue in the month, maybe in October and November. And so we had tried to present like at the beginning of the 60-day review to give the commission time to provide formal comments. And then we ended up presenting the week before they were due. And we offered to let you guys have an extension, but we didn't get any comments from you. And then we got, and we totally understand, it's the holidays, it was really bad timing, it was just like the bad set of circumstances, right? So no one's at fault, just a thing. But when we saw these comments, we were like, we really do want your input. We don't want to proceed with them without you giving us some feedback. We do have a really tight timeline at this point. I have to stop touching the document on April 16th and send it to the City Council, the Board of Supervisors, and the City and County Planning and Zoning Commission, which Rose is on the County Planning and Zoning Commission too in her non-city role. So those groups have to have a plan to look at and take to their retreat. So it's still going through review. It's still going through legal review. So input does still have to go through legal review. It does still have to go through the council and the Board of Supervisors. I don't know what all that's going to churn out. It's kind of, some of it's outside of our control in a little bit of a way, because that's what opening it up at this point will do. But it is getting, the changes we can make are getting narrower for certain. Like right now, the City Council and Board of Supervisors may give me different feedback, and I've got to go the direction they're pointing me to. That'll be a pretty definitive retreat on May 2nd. Or at least I hope it will be. If we have a lot of open-ended things, it could change things, right? I think the feedback we're getting, it's important. If we'll try and tell you if it's something we're going to have to take to like legal, or we're going to have to not change, but maybe ask the board and council if they want to change it. We'll try and be really transparent about that. I know it's not like a direct answer to your question. I think it's going to be a little case by case in terms of what the feedback is, but that's the process right now. And then, so after the May 2nd retreat, whatever direction I get from that day, we'll go through one more round of revision, and then it has to go through another full review with attorneys at the city and county. And then it goes to public hearings over the summer, and that's even narrower. So I think one, it feels a little constrained because we didn't get the opportunity we wanted with the Indigenous Commission in the fall. And then two, we're heading very quickly in less than a month to being in front of the elected officials. So my goal is to share with them all the comments we got. I've already shared with them all the comments that, not even just the ones you saw, but all 2,400 comments we got from the public. That whole spreadsheet has been shared with all of those elected and appointed officials at the Planning and Zoning Commission. I asked them 3 weeks ago, I said, start reading this. You will want to have read this before before I send you the next batch of information. So if you've got separated comments and we can't like incorporate them all, I will still send any written comments you give us to the elected officials and the people meeting at that retreat so that they have a chance to see it as well. That's kind of the long-winded way of giving you a full idea of the process. Do you have questions?
No, thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. I just saw this document a year ago because I wasn't on the commission last year in October. So I'm still catching up with what was presented and what we're looking at. And again, this system that you have in terms of, I know in your office, it probably makes sense. And then out here, we have to translate it. What is it exactly you're always asking the commission to do? And then we're just adding additional comments to the comment sheet that exists.
Well, I'd say two things. You can advise us as staff on how we should be responding to the comments is one thing. So if you see a comment and you say, don't do anything about that comment, guys, that's out of touch with what we think is the standard that we want to hold the city and county to. That's, number one. And then number two is if you see things we missed or that there are comments you want to know if those are represented or not, you can tell us. We can tell you like, yeah, we heard comments like that. We just didn't include them in your sheet. Or they may be things we didn't get comments on. And I might not be able to change those before the retreat, but I can at least share that there are comments on those items with council and others.
Okay, correct. Thank you. I do believe Elsa said that in the special meeting also, and assured us in that regard of what we need to complete. So thank you.
Yeah, well, and it's useful, I think, to repeat it too, because it is complicated and it moves very fast from here. So I don't want anyone to misinterpret what we're trying to get rolling. I'm sorry there's not more time.
Okay, so are we, anybody else from the commission, are we sending back in then our documents of corrections? Okay.
I will. Yeah, I will have that to you by the end of tomorrow at the latest. And I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. Like Shirley said, I was not on the commission last year either. I started in January. So I'm grateful to have, even though it's worked out this way and it's kind of feels rushed and everything, and I apologize for not sending my comments sooner. I'm grateful for the opportunity to provide input on this.
Okay.
This is
Go ahead,
Lori.
Rose.
Just for discussion and just having some comments there. Are there any things you really want to talk about during this meeting, or is it more of answering, having input on that sheet, and then also the email that Elsa sent, and getting that to her? I would say no later than the 9th, because the sooner the better. that way they have more time to kind of clarify things too. Anyway, that's what I'd like to share with you, and I hope that that is something that can be done. Appreciate Commissioner Moana to having hers finished by tomorrow. And I think that if we can encourage, the sooner the better our, the our document can be, put together in the way that we'd like to have it, be presented on Indigenous people's behalf. So, but for today's conversation, are there just some really, is there more clarification that needs to be made, or is there specific questions that the commissioners have around just the regional plan itself? I think those are some things, because it is kind of confusing when you talk about the regional plan and the comprehensive plan and how they fit together and what takes and how are they different. Those kinds of things are really important to kind of have in your mind on what we're trying to do as a commission in this plan. So thank you.
I guess I would have one comment going back to one of the, or I would have some input on one of the comments in the Excel spreadsheet. So this looks like it's comment number 10, space 11, but comment 10. Looking at kind of, I think we've had this discussion about this before, the Native Nations terminology. And I think in addition to my input that we can leave Native Nations as a term of use in that paragraph, I had written down in my comments that I would strongly recommend listing those contemporary tribes in alphabetical order, not listing them in kind of a random list. That's kind of how I know people in different government entities and different state agencies to do that, is to list tribes in alphabetical order. So it's in an alphabetical order. It's not, it appears unbiased in a way, due to intertribal conflicts that could arise and are historically present. That's one thing that I would recommend is listing the tribes there in alphabetical order.
Commissioner Marshall, do you have anything to add? I'd really like to see your input.
Not so much, but I do agree with the ladies that just mentioned, things about, is our input gonna be implemented? And listing the tribes in alphabetical order. They have really good input, and I'm just in support of them. Thank you.
Elsa, when you were talking about RS 7 and in the spreadsheet corresponds with numbers, I guess line, is that 41? Did we say 41 to 47?
I think it was 24 to 36 for
Oh.
RS7.
Oh, there we go. Never mind. 24 to 36. And hold on, I'm on the wrong page here.
And I can drop that one in the chat so we can all look at the language.
I'm missing my page here. 3. Oh, there it is. 3. 14. R7, recognize and incorporate Indigenous knowledge and cultural practices into natural and cultural resource affairs and projects. And starting with RS, with line 24, a comment was these policies different from cultural resource policies below it. Another person said, but center and uplift Indigenous knowledge in a mindful and culturally appropriate way. And so all these individual comments, so when I was looking at this, I'm thinking, are you trying to incorporate everybody's comments into one new policy? I'd like to hear your thoughts, what you'd like to see in terms of, what can we fit in that one space?
I'll jump in for that. So there were two policies. There was RS7 and RS10 in the draft plan. And they both were trying to kind of point at the fact that there's Indigenous knowledge in the region that can be incorporated into our decision making for natural and cultural resources. And then I think the other one was more about just engagement based. Like that we're engaging people, which I think there's two elements to that, right? Engaging people is like go out and gather the current generation of people in Flagstaff and bring them to consensus or consult with them, or it can mean a lot of things like that. But asking like that you bring in Indigenous knowledge to me more says go get the expert or the people who are the carriers of this Indigenous knowledge and bring them into your process and your thinking. So people, I think, thought those were the same thing, where I see them as like, if as a person who's on staff, I see those as two different approaches. And maybe the approach is not the most important part, but I think we've held on to that one and not even sent it out with our chapter 3 review because we weren't sure which approach is a better one. I think maybe there are circumstances where either is a good choice, or both, or do we need to be that specific? I think that really kind of got churned in our heads for a while. So we don't have to respond to every comment. I think we're trying to kind of resolve the issue that the comments bring up, which is what is the approach we should take? And I think Elsa let me know that there were some questions last night about, some people said, well, this should just apply to everything, right? And I think that's the important part of that is, and it's a way I describe this problem to some other folks in the community, is this is a legal, very legal document. Like it's not a strategic plan where we can we can be wishful and have aspirations in it, but they can't be so unclear that when we are sitting down with a land use attorney from Phoenix who has a client and they say, well, what am I supposed to do with this? That we can't answer that question clearly. Does that make sense? Because if it's vague or if it's too aspirational and not achievable, they will just say, we're not doing that. And I probably won't have any way to make them do it per se. So there's a lot of like give and take in the language in the plan, I think, between how much we wish things were ideal and how we think the wording can be effective in helping us get better land use decisions. So that's kind of the space that we're working on this issue in, and where we could use your insight is, how practical should this be? If we write something that's really aspirational, it might not get implemented very well. That's my experience with the current plan, is if you write something that's highly aspirational and you have no clear idea on how you're going to implement it, it just won't get implemented. That's because people won't know what to do with it. So I think that the RS7 to RS10 comparison led some people to think we were saying the same thing. We were trying to actually draw out two different strategies. And then I think we don't have a clear picture of, is one strategy better than the other? Is there a whole different approach we didn't consider on how to write it? Remembering that the technical implementer will be a really important audience of the policy. Not complicated at all, right?
No, but they are two different. They are different. You're right. RS7 and RS10 are two different things. And I like the fact that you brought up, so I'm curious though, what would be an example where this would be implemented? What would be the
Yeah, I could think, Lauren, I don't know if you have a great example that comes to mind on the cultural resource side. But I can think from the natural resource side, I can think like that of like instead of having a prescribed fire plan that is only written by foresters, they might include a cultural burning practitioner in writing a prescribed fire plan, right? So that they understand how the prescription that the forestry and fire staff are writing can incorporate a cultural burning practice. Is there a place for that? And they have a dialogue with someone who is an expert in cultural burning. Not that we, bring together a bunch of people who've never done cultural burning who happen to be Indigenous. Like that's why I think RS7 was written the way it was. That was definitely one of the scenarios that we talked about. Lauren, from a cultural resource standpoint, can you think of a good example?
I think what you gave was a great example, and I can't think of a specific project, but the same sort of idea of bringing in, consulting with Rose and your commission and other entities in cultural resource work. And if there was, a specific project, just bringing in additional viewpoints into that project and making sure we're looking at it from a broader perspective and bringing in more voices.
that clarifies a lot for me. Thank you. No, both I agree. Very good
And
examples.
I would just say too that you just provided that you do think that they're both separate policies and should be retained, like that is a great example of the type of feedback that we could take and then say like, okay, well, we got this other comment saying to combine them, but here's, the Indigenous Commission weighed in and valued them both as separate policies, and so maybe we keep them both separate. It's great feedback.
Yeah, so in the chat, I think Rose has both RS7 or somebody put in the chat. Oh, Elsa, thank you. RS7 and RS10. RS7 again reads, recognize and incorporate Indigenous knowledge and cultural practices into natural and cultural resource affairs and projects. RS10 says, engage residents proactively at the neighborhood level in the development and implementation of natural and cultural resources project. Is that resource project or resources projects and programs? There's a lot of S's in there. Especially when vulnerable or historically disadvantaged populations are affected. Correct. And again, that could be any ethnic background and applies to that kind of broad to cover everybody in those populations. So definitely two different things.
And I guess another feedback point in this is, so RS10, in the new organization of the plan, we actually moved to a section called Neighborhoods and Equity. We took that one out of the context of only being about cultural and natural resources and moved that up because engaging people, that's what we do. We did not do that with RS7 because we think specifically there's ways to do that in natural and cultural resources that are not available in every field. Like in land use decision making, that would be very hard to like include in a zoning application or an annexation application. Unless there was a natural or cultural resource issue that we were getting feedback on, it would maybe be a little more difficult. Unless there was something specific about the building or the annexation that was related to Indigenous people or a tribal government or something along those lines, I think that could be a challenge. Just because the whole framework of how you make land use decisions is very legalistic. And there's a rabbit hole or two to go down into why, of course, but.
Pardon me for saying it, but this whole thing feels like a rabbit hole. It's just constantly a moving document, and I'm like, where are we? What are we doing? Like, Um,
I know, and
so
it's
again,
less complicated than the current.
oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 comments were given in the document. And all of them seem to be, again, they either want to add to this statement. Trying to get all of it in there. And so I guess your thoughts on how you feel about incorporating some of what they say. I don't think there's no notes from the planning staff yet on the far
Yeah, I
right.
don't know that we have notes on that. I think I think the only notes I'd have are why the explanation I had of why RS7 and RS10 were originally written as two separate things. And now they'll be in two separate sections, so that will maybe make them more distinctive. But really, I mean, the 12 comments,
So
I
one of
don't,
the
I don't have a strong opinion on them. I'd want to understand what your thoughts are as a group.
Okay. So take number 33 says recognize and incorporate Indigenous knowledge and cultural practice. I think we brought this one up in the special meeting into natural and cultural resources affairs and projects on a surface level. I'm a little skeptical about whether the Indigenous knowledge and cultural practices are something that people would be willing to share if the approach is one that is only now calling for their voices and opinions to be heard or considered. It could be possibly be interpreted as performative. I'm not part of the Indigenous community, so I don't feel comfortable. Can someone explain what this person's trying to say to me?
I think they are speculating that
On a surface level, I'm a little
they are
skeptical.
speculating as a non-Indigenous person how Indigenous people might react to this language or decision. And that is part of why the comments are hard for us to figure out what to do with, is because
a lot of them are not by Native perspectives.
yes.
So Lauren brought up a really good point when she was talking about the cultural resource affairs and talking about consultations, consultants coming in like Rose or somebody else. I think that statement, those consultants do bring in knowledge that's already given, in that regard in those specific meetings. So I guess in response to this person's statement, it is always appropriate again to talk with a consultant that's Native about a situation that is Native, and they will then give their insight, and that is the knowledge that is being presented. So Rose does it all the time. People in our community do it all the time, and there's a difference. So does that make sense? So when Commissioner, I think somebody's raising their hands. I can't see my screen. Oh, my own
Commissioner Moana.
Oh, I'm already muted. Sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say in response to that I had just written as a comment to kind of disregard this comment. Simply because I think coming from this background of largely working like in an archaeological context where collaboration and consultation is with Indigenous communities is more of a common practice now. Indigenous people are, and in general, I think Indigenous people are happy to teach and to talk about our perspectives, our cultures, and things like that, when it makes sense and to the extent that it makes sense, right? We know our limits in terms of what we should be talking about, what we should not be talking about, what's sacred knowledge versus what's knowledge should be shared. And so I think we've always wanted our voices to be heard. We always wanted to be a collaborator and to be an equal partner in a lot of projects that have gone on throughout history and throughout development of everything, of city, of urban environments, of all of that. And so I don't think there's a problem with that, with it being performative or anything like that. We're willing participants in these efforts and in these projects. And so that kind of, I think, I think perform, perf- things can be performative. I don't want to invalidate that. But I think largely with things like that, and in collaborative projects, Indigenous people are happy to collaborate and participate in things like this and share knowledge.
This is Commissioner Francis. I'd like to again agree with what Commissioner, I'm going to say it, Lyompea, Lomaompea. Did I say it right?
Lomaompaya.
Lomaompea. Oh
Yeah.
boy. See, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna keep saying it. And so pardon me as I keep practicing her last name, everyone. Agree very much what she just said. So I think that will eliminate that kind of what number 33. I wanted
Yeah.
to go up
That's
two
really
more.
good feedback. So thank you, because I think for us, we don't want to be dismissive of these kinds of comments. I think everybody's trying to be in partnership in a good way. But yeah, that is a perfect example of the kind of written feedback that we hope you can give us by the 9th, because that will help us, tell us the person may come back and look and see how their comment was addressed. We took your comment to the Indigenous Commission and they said they don't feel this language is performative and that we're ready to move forward with it or make adjustments to it or whatever it is. So that is maybe a good, I wanted to take that feedback and give you an example of how we'll write it into the spreadsheet.
So there are two more questions that are rows that I'd like to make a comment on, which are the one right before it and the one before that. So that would be 32 and 31. Somebody says maybe instead of using affairs, use decisions. So it would be in cultural practices I read it over. Recognize and incorporate Indigenous knowledge and cultural practices into natural and cultural resource decisions and projects. So I guess the definition of what is affairs means to the city. Is that a broad kind of a thing to kind of just envelop everything and not
Yeah,
make it final?
I do remember we talked about different words early on, and I think, we thought maybe issues, but issues felt kind of negative.
Mm.
So I believe that's how we got to affairs, but I think decisions, I think it's open to be changed to decisions or something else. Yeah.
I would say too, maybe Rose having affairs in her official title and position may have opinions on that too, of like, it does, I guess, technically incorporate all of the work that you're doing using the term affairs. And so it would encompass not just like what I would look at for heritage preservation and cultural resource decision making, but be broader. And so personally, I like it, but I would defer to what you say as well.
Lauren, which one did you like? The affairs or decisions?
Affairs.
Okay.
Because I think it is a little bit broader with practices, although Sarah, do you disagree?
I think affairs is broader too, because to me, when you say affairs, you're including like things that are operational.
Right.
And not just like policy decisions. Like policy decisions get made, but there might be operational things we could adjust that we're not aware of or we haven't consulted on or had conversations about before. So to me, affairs is a broader list of things than just decisions.
And so, okay, very good. I think we're getting close. That will be in my notes. So the one before it, which is the controversial one kind of, is the snowball. Snowball, if that decision were being made under this plan, does this policy have necessary weight? And that's a tough one because Snowball on its own is its own entity in a way. It's its own business. However, they leased with the Forest Service and that whole thing. And that complicates a lot of reasons. And of course, now the city of Flagstaff is involved. because of the tourism dollars that they receive by promoting that business. So I don't know, how does the city feel about Snowball and its efforts? I know it, like everything I just said, what does everybody think? It's crickets.
Well, one thing I mean, I can't give you the city's position on Snowball necessarily.
Right.
But I can tell you that this document's not gonna like undo the NEPA federal decision behind what's going on at Snowball. Like that's wholly separate. That NEPA decision is never gonna look at this document and say, ooh, maybe we missed something. They're just like different paths entirely. The city's decision to provide water services is not wholly under the plan. Like there's ways water services as a utility is not making a land use decision. Like the Forest Service already made the land use decision, and that's outside of our control. And the service decisions don't fall under the plan either. So it's kind of in a gray area. Like these kinds of water services decisions don't fall under the plan, and the land use decision part doesn't fall under this plan just because its authority doesn't extend to those areas. So it's odd. So that's what I can say is that it's in a very gray area. So
And so how would this a policy then apply to something like that? Because it'll come up.
It might not. I mean, in a legal standpoint, I don't think it does.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. I don't think it's a question of weight. I think it's more almost like jurisdictional. Like it just if it was a city or county property or private property that wasn't on federal land, it would be a different question. But
so let's say somebody says, okay, for the utility providing water, by association, the city is supporting this business to do its work. How does that then look for policy RS7?
I mean, the city is not the entity making the natural or cultural resource decisions is the issue. Like those are being made by the federal government in that case. So, this would only pertain to city and county level decisions that we make. And the water services, the decision to provide water is kind of an operational utility level one. Yeah, so it has a nexus in terms of the wording. I just don't know that there's any like enforceable authority, no matter how you phrased RS7. Rose, do you have a thought on that?
Yes, I don't want to influence stuff, but I just want to bring up the fact, and it's all public knowledge, is city managers knew, I guess, in the part where he would like to say anything that's controversial should come before the public. And I think that that's where we need to kind of have this in the plan according to how it can fit. I mean, that would also further what the city wants in the fact of having things that the city has interest in, the community members have interest in, where things could become controversial. Those kinds of things should always be transparent and in the public. Maybe something like that could land in this plan.
Thank you, Rose. That's a very good point. Thank you. Okay, so for those were my big things, but the rest I'll have my document to you, hopefully also tomorrow. My thoughts, but most of it is pretty. I think we're kind of thinking on the same page. And until Rose said what she just said. So we might include that. Okay. Anybody else on the commission? See you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. I just wanted to thank you, Commissioner Francis, and in front of everyone for being so concise with, I think, a lot of opinions that a lot of us have. It's just hard to convey. So I feel good. You advocated really well, and I'm really glad you were able to get those points across.
I definitely then encourage all the commissioners to make sure that they make their comments and send them in, as Rose said, by the 9th. It is a very interesting process to see this. First time I've seen how a document is evolving this way. And again, getting your feedback on what you need assistance with and questions and stuff so it's this constant back and forth. So I hope that your time was worth it meeting with us again, even though it seems like it's taking a bit. I think everybody else also is getting it. So hopefully, if anybody has any questions, please ask questions. That's always the number one way we can make an impact with this group.
All right, sounds good. I just want to make a comment too about our commissioners. And I think with a traditional perspective is sometimes we take time to reflect on things before voicing, and it's really just a part of the trust building. It's really about how can I say this to make an impact, and how can I comment on this to put forward the ideas and thoughts of the people, and sometimes that takes some time to reflect and some time to maybe talk to others and say, what do you think about this? And that really does take time, and sometimes it takes in some ways, having to speak for people, having to speak for your family, those kinds of things might even take time to go and maybe possibly have a prayer done, because it's so much on your mind that it really begins to build maybe some sort of situation within yourself that you might need help with other ways. So I think just giving that little bit of perspective kind of helps to have our non-Indigenous relatives understand that sometimes it takes a process. And people always talk about Indian time sometimes when we're late with things or whatever, but that really comes from traditionalists, from our ancestors that say, it'll come when it's meant to come. And sometimes Western society doesn't always understand that and is really impatient with that. So thank you for just putting that out there.
Yeah, and we know it's a complicated, like some of these are complicated issues, and really appreciate taking the time to go through them.
And I would just I very much appreciate it as well. I think this has been a very productive conversation, all of our conversations, and we really appreciate the perspective. And again, some of it, as Sarah also mentioned earlier, some of these things, we need your perspective. So, we're very happy to have it. And there are, just to mention some other things going on. I don't know if we have already, but we're gonna be, so first of all, the retreat we've been mentioning is open, and if any of you would like to come and attend, we'll have more details going out soon, but it'll be at the Aquaplex on May 2nd, and it is open if you wanted to attend and participate that way as well. We're also in 2 weeks, on the 15th and 17th, going to be having some open houses to just generally share, here's what we learned in the 60-day comment period, and here are some, changes we proposed, and just share where we're at. And those are the one on the 15th is also going to be at the Aquaplex in the evening, 5:30 to 7:30. And then the 17th is at the Boys and Girls Club. But I can share the flyer for all of this information with Rose to send out to the commission. And then we haven't quite gone live yet, but we're really close. We're also putting out a survey, a big public survey with some additional, to gather some additional feedback during this time. And then the survey is also going to be presented at the retreat, the findings. So I'll share that with you, Rose, so you can disseminate it. Just a few other ways to participate as we move forward in this process.
Yeah, and I had one other thing to add, since it's not on the spreadsheet with comments, is, and I know Commissioner Lance isn't here, and I think he was the one who made some of these comments at the special meeting, but he was talking about, yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about how we were thinking of, like, could we add like some boxes of, like, with explanations or more content on Indigenous culture or gathering spaces or other topics like that. So I think as you're going through the comments, if you feel like there's some kind of topic that needs more explanation or more description in the plan, it would be good to know, yeah, what should be added.
Commissioner Zavala. So I think we're pretty done with this section, if there's no other questions.
I feel good. It's just going over those notes Elsa mentioned. But yeah, I'm ready if the group is ready. Awesome. We'll go to discussion item B, the Indigenous Commission Retreat. Our wonderful leader, Rose, would like to get some information from us if we think an in-person retreat would be beneficial for the operation of the commission, and just something to discuss here. We've got another 27 minutes left, so if anybody wants to kick it off, I'll share. I missed the one we hosted. Was it 2023, Rose, the last one you guys hosted in person?
I think so. I think that was our last one. I think we held that in the beginning. I think it was like in January or February, something like that.
Yeah.
And then we had some other get-togethers in between, but just having a retreat and just kind of things we'd like to focus on is really important sometimes to go over. So yeah, I just need some direction. Do we want to do it before the fiscal year ends, or do we wait until, like, say, January again at the beginning of the year? So I just need some direction on how to plan for that.
Yeah, I think an in-person retreat would be super awesome. Some of the questions we went over today, just even clarifying what our role is, how we support. I think these are all things we could even touch on and refresh for new and returning commission members. The one I know I missed, just because I was like out of town rafting and it was my first time being out with the kids. It was in July, and it sounds like that was a pretty successful and accessible time to do it in the summer, but I'm pretty open to any ideas that any other commissioners have for what time to host it.
So currently we're going into the third quarter. Is that right?
I think we're going into quarter two.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. It'd be going into the fourth quarter for a fiscal year, and then second quarter for the yearly, the annual.
Okay. When were they when were the meetings again in the past? In July?
There was one in July, and then also there was also one at the beginning in January, I believe. January or February, one of the two,
Okay.
when new commissioners came on. So if we do one in the summer, then we only have like about 5 or 6 months for those that are terming out to be leaving, unless they reapply, unless they're eligible to reapply.
So definitely include the ones that are going to be terming out, just in case.
So we can either, if they choose to reapply, they'll be, not going to be here. If they choose not to be here.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
I want to hear.
So I guess the thing is, do we want to include our current commissioners that are on board right now and have a retreat to plan for going forward? Or do we want to wait until January or so for the new commissioners that come on and then plan with them for the year?
Can't there be one that this year and one next year? I mean, is this a yearly retreat or is it only so many years?
We try to just do at least one. I think we skipped a year only because just so much was going on, but we try to, or at least my aim is to go annually.
So if we do things this summer, that's okay. But it just depends when, because people are going away for vacation or they have activities. Is that the conflict or the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are on vacation during the summer.
So could we think of something in May before they go away for the summer or after in September?
I'm leaving that totally up to you guys. I'm just taking direction from you for right now. I think I just need to know what you guys will prefer to do.
Okay,
I'm
so
open.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we could for now, maybe Rose, if you wanted to put out some feelers for dates in May. So I don't know how you would want to go about doing that. But for the commissioners, maybe send out and ask for feedback on dates that would work best for people in May, and we can start with that and see how we get how people respond, and then we can set maybe a poll or something like that, if that would be something that you think would work, Rose.
Okay, we can do that. I can do a poll for May, and then see how that goes. But I'll also see if people want to do one in January, instead of the summer.
Okay.
January or February. That way I can have a better understanding of what people are gonna do. So co-chair Mariah Zavala is terming out on 12/1/2025, and it looks like you're eligible for to reapply.
Okay.
But I'll get more information because it says one of 3 and one partial, so I'm not sure really what that means on your term.
Is that public information on the website? Because
No.
I thought it was going to be March 2026, because that's when I was.
No, it goes by when you were appointed.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Mhm.
Let's see here. And then as well as co-chair Lance is also terming out in December of 2025. So you know, and if you guys are going to reapply, then that shouldn't make a difference. But really, it's up to the city council to appoint who they'd like to go forward with your positions. So if we have 20 candidates for your positions, then the council, it's up to the council to decide who they'd like to appoint.
Rose, this is Diana.
Mhm.
Or Commissioner Kadiyai.
Okay.
Do you have anybody for the ex officio positions
To apply?
who applied? Since you have these,
No,
did I? No.
no. So the way the ex officio
But they have
positions,
part of IPAC though.
yeah, they have to be on IPAC first.
Yeah. All right.
Before they can apply for the commission. And they have to live outside the city limits. That's the other condition. And also be part of a recognized nation.
Mhm.
That kind of limits from IPAC. So right now, being on IPAC, I'm the only other one that's eligible, but I can't apply. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll do a poll for May dates, and then preferences maybe for January or February if people would like.
Could
But
we
I'll-
include some dates for June, possibly? I feel like May is a really tight turnaround for whoever's going to be planning it because it's already April 3rd. And I know there's a lot of graduations going on in May, and
There
a
are.
lot of folks are going to be going to a lot of family things.
Sure, I can do both. I can do May and June,
Please.
and see which ones could be available to you. Also, what was I going to do? Was another thing I was going to say about May. Oh, I can't think of it right now.
Rose, this is Commissioner Marshall.
Okay.
Hi. Am I terming out in December?
You're terming out December 1st in 2026.
Okay. All right. I just got my years wrong.
Mm-hmm. So, unless a commissioner decides to resign, then somebody will be appointed in that position to finish out the term.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions?
If for Darren and I that are terming out, if we want to reapply, do we just reach out directly to you, or is there a time frame when we would do that?
You can always put in your application usually I start recruiting for people in October.
Okay.
October to like late November,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes in November, because then it has to go in front of council sometimes in December so they can vote on somebody to start in January.
Okay, cool.
So, but you can see if you apply, let's say you apply now, your application will be good for 12 months from the time you apply.
Okay.
So that would make you eligible for the December deadline or December appointment.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Rose. Separately for the Indigenous Commission retreat, when we do it in person, or if we do it in person, would it be a 6-hour or 8-hour day, or like 4, 6, half full day?
I think it would depend. So my other thing is, if we're going to do a retreat, and I prefer to have it in person, but we need to have it probably during a weekday so that there's access for the public to attend. And if we do it here in City Hall, then we're able to have a Teams link so people can join in by Teams. Normally what I did before has been for the commissioners to meet in person, but there would be a Teams link for the public to join. And that way we're giving that access. Unless somebody tells me I want to attend in person, then we'll make those accommodations for them to, and it will be on the agenda where we're meeting, what room we're using, that kind of stuff. So that they can attend in person if they'd like to.
Okay. And I'd love to hear the folks' feedback on this one. If while you're looking for dates, I'm definitely leaning more towards like a Friday. I think a Friday would be awesome. And that's all for me.
A weekday, and then hopefully, and also 8 to 5 would be preferable, just for people to come in. Because one of the things that we are looking at, that would be the other thing to consider is having access to the building. So if somebody wants to come in and be in person during the retreat, then we'd have to just make sure that facility can open the door. And that's why we try not to do it on Saturdays and Sundays anymore, only because it's easier for facilities to do that if we choose like an evening, like extending into maybe 6, let's say 4 to 6 or 3 to 6 or something like that, then facilities can help with closing and those kinds of things. But just having access is the main thing for the public to the building. And it's not really feasible if it's on the weekends. So if we would do Friday, is there a preference? I guess my question to you is, do you want to have it in the morning, afternoon, or a combination of both, or do you want it full? That would be a decision that you would like to, I'd like you to have or make. And then we can fit the planning into that. Because right now we're just really trying to accommodate your schedules too. You're all a volunteer board, volunteer commissioners.
I would say late morning or early afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, Diana, I like 9 to 3 or something, just to avoid traffic,
Right
and
there,
then
Diana.
lunch there, and leave before everybody leaves for their weekend. From my experience, Fridays were always bad for meetings under S. So I'm trying not to go into that because we're not doing that type of environment. So Friday would be good. If it's like January, during the winter months, mine is, and I told Rose this too, and before for meetings, is that if the weather is bad, the roads are bad, because I live way out, and I'm not gonna go into town, and I've driven in North Dakota, Minnesota, Colorado, and all that. I'm not the problem, it's other people. So I just don't want to mess with any of that. So just in case we decide on a month where there's bad weather, I probably just do online just to get it out there. And then another thing, one more thing I want to say is it was very, very interesting and insightful to hear from each one of you that commented on the plan that we met for. I'm not a policymaker, but I wasn't raised here, and sometimes I feel like from an outsider that I don't, because a lot of people ask me that, oh, were you born here in Flag? Were you raised in Flag? I'm like, no, but that doesn't, I mean, I just feel like it's an outsider. I feel like an outsider a lot of times. And even though both of my clans are Pueblo, but I was raised Navajo, and I always try to feel like I have a close connection to Hopi, but I don't, and that comes into play when there are things to be decided on around this area. I go to Tuba, and the first thing, oh, you're Northern Navajo, I mean, really, you guys? So I prefer to listen in and just think about what each of you are saying, which is very eloquent, very respectful, and that's the way Rose alluded to. We were raised, we are running a dialogue in our head, and we don't always have to feel the quiet times when people are silent. We don't have to say anything. We're thinking, and so that's the way I was raised too, and so it's not that I'm not involved with all you're discussing here. I'm just listening, and most of it's I feel the same way as you do, each of you. So I don't want to take up more time, saying the same thing over and over. So but if I feel I'm going to really deviate from the other, then I get that I've been told that I'm too radical too. Okay, so I'm in my 60s now. It's not like I really care what people say anymore. I really don't. Right now I'm just fighting for peace and quiet. Been there, done that, being proactive in a way that people thought that I had too much to say, or I'm claiming too much space as a Native woman. Been there, done that. And I feel like there are people who need to, younger people and other people who need to fill in that space now. So I really appreciate each of you, your different perspective on this. I really was, I'm very impressed with it. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Cuddy-Eye? Yeah.
Escalade.
Does anybody else from the commission have any other thoughts on the retreat before we get into any informational items to or from commissioner members and then adjournment? Joko Desia, by the way, Commissioner Cuddy-Eye, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's so kind.
Okay, so just to recap, I'm going to send out a poll on for June and May, and possibly ask a date for January, or just a feeler question for January or February. And then for summer, the ones for May and June, it'll be for a Friday, weekday, 8 to 5, preferably between 9 and 3 with lunch.
Rose, this is Commissioner Francis already. I have 3 Fridays in May that I will not have available. But there, 2 of them are confirmed. One of them might be just pending. So already my Fridays aren't great in May. But it might land on one of the days that I am free. So
Okay.
So just let you know, FYI.
Okay.
Yeah, there are 2 Fridays I'm not free either.
If we need to push it to June, that's totally fine. There's just 1 week. That first week in June, I won't be available.
Mondays and
Okay.
Tuesdays in the evenings are great because we're always at work or we're at home from 4 to 6.
Okay, Commissioner Moana, I'm gonna go ahead and note that so that I don't put that down as a date.
Okay.
In
Thank
June.
you.
Cool. Okay. I think we're set on that one, on that topic.
All right. Moving to informational items to and from commissioner members, staff, and any future agenda item requests if anybody's got some nice info they'd like to share of what's going on.
This is Commissioner Francis. I have one announcement, and that's for this this Saturday at the Orpheum Theater. Flagstaff Film Festival is having their Indigenous Voices event. So from 6:30 to 10, they'll be showcasing films by Native peoples, and I do believe there's going to be some food and vendors at the Orpheum. So if you're available there, then that's what's going on there.
Perfect. And I'll share a couple announcements to piggyback off the Flagstaff Mountain Film Festival. Yes, that is going to be a super awesome event. And I've got more information on the specific food they're going to have for that. Yeah, they're suggesting that anybody who attends to grab a bite to eat prior to the arrival, because the Orpheum will just be serving popcorn, candy, soda, and alcoholic drinks, but they will have blue corn cookies and Indigenous tea to share. Meg Caboti will be there with a booth for her farmers market that she hosts, and I'll actually be there hosting the session, which is pretty exciting. So it's $15 for students and $20 for general admission. Jonathan Nez will have a video. It'll be really awesome, and they're encouraging anybody attending to wear their traditional attire if you feel inclined.
And that's this weekend too? When did you say it was?
Saturday, April 5th.
April 10th.
5th.
Okay. Did you say that's the same event that Shirley just announced?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. There was just one item, and I wanted to clarify with Commissioner Francis. Is I think it was 2 weeks ago, or whenever, or not 2 weeks ago, like 2 meetings ago, that Commissioner or Co-Chair Commissioner Lance wanted to know more about the meeting over in Cameron regarding the casino. Is that something you still are willing to do? Is share what was shared at that chapter meeting, or do you feel like it's too not enough information for you to elaborate on?
Well, Commissioner Lance and I did attend that, but not on behalf of the commission. So, not sure how we like to say anything. I mean, I can just individually tell you, not in our meeting time, but is that a issue?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that it's just community information. If you were wanted to share that information, if you feel like you have enough information to share with the commission on what was said or what was decided from the elected officials there at the chapter house regarding that casino discussion. It's not like it's just community information that you'll be sharing, that you're not there as a commissioner to attend that meeting, that you're a community member.
Okay, and well, all I can say is that Navajo Nation Gaming
But
purchased.
do you want to be on the agenda is what I'm asking, not to share it right now.
Oh, I was gonna share it real fast because it's done. It's a done deal. Not really. No.
Okay. All right.
I had a couple more announcements, but wanted to leave it open in case any other commissioners had anything. Okay, awesome. I do want, if people want to mark their calendars for June 7th this year, the Sacred Mountain Prayer Run will be held there by NACA. I think I'll be assisting from like a race director perspective this year. And last year I ran as one of the prayer stick runners. And so nominations will open for that race soon. And if you know anybody who feels called to be in that role, please have them follow NACA and their social media for when they open that up. It's a very spiritual role to carry. And if you want to come out and run with your kids or anything, it's going to be June 7th. And then I have flyers now for my rafting program and links that I can send to Rose to send to you guys for the Paskoyaki rafting experience I host in the summer. I went ahead and signed up as a charity bib runner for that 250-mile race I'm doing so I can raise funds for that. And lots of pictures and stuff of little brown native kids on the river to incline folks to donate or to participate. I might even be looking for somebody to go on the river with me as well for a few days. And that's all for announcements from me.
Mariah, this is
Yes.
Diana.
Thank you.
When is that river rafting?
That is going to be from July 25th to July 30th. It's 5 days on the river, a volunteer position. It's not yet paid, but hoping in the future as the program grows, being able to get enough grant money and funding to create a paid position for it.
Rose,
Another,
this is Commissioner Marshall.
another question for that, Mariah. Who is hosting this, or is it Navajo? Yes, or
No, so I am the program coordinator with a 501c3 called SPL Sports Inc. And this is an extension of the program that I manage here in Flagstaff, Arizona. So it's partnered with Grand Canyon Youth. They manage
Okay.
all the logistics. I manage curriculum and recruitment of youth and fundraising and
Thank
everything.
All right. I believe Commissioner Marshall wants to say something.
I just wanted to announce that the pies, the ones, the tribes ending in Pi, Yavapai Apache, Wallapai, Havasu Pi from Mexico. We're going to be having our annual gathering April 11th and 12th. It's hosted by the Fort McDowell Yavapai tribe, and you all are welcome to attend. I think I successfully sent a flyer to Rose. If you want to distribute, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
April 11th
Yeah.
and 12th. Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Marshall.
Where is that going to be?
In Fort McDowell,
Fort McDowell.
Fountain Hills area, down in the valley. I'm sure it's going to be scorching. It's going to be held indoors.
Okay. That'll be cooler, huh?
Yeah.
Commissioner Marshall, can you email that to me? Because I can't seem to download it on my phone.
Okay. I
Because you
will do
text,
that.
yeah, you text it, so it's not coming up.
Yeah. And for any commissioners that have any Indigenous youth in mind that are looking for programs or opportunities in the summer, Grand Canyon Trust is hosting a free river rafting trip for 18 to 20-year-olds who are affiliated with any of the 22 nations, and then a leadership scholar program that is for 18 to 27-year-olds, which is focused on just transition and traveling across northern Arizona, working with Navajo, Hopi, different tribes for economic development and just learning about what it means to be a leader in the community. And that's those are fully paid trips, and I think they even come with stipends very small stipends, but something to incentivize youth getting out there and learning.
Right. Is that down the Colorado River?
The Grand Canyon Trust it's
Okay.
I believe it's directly in the Grand Canyon. Like
Okay.
it's a long trip.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, next to the next agenda item, a motion to adjourn. At 12:35 p.m.
I'll motion.
You don't motion, you just adjourn.
Oh, cool. But thank you, Moana. All right. Thanks, everybody. Choco with this. Yeah, have a great day.
We'll see y'all later.
See
All
ya.
right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Hi, Jenna.
Hey, Rose.
Rose, are you still on
I'm still on with Shirley.
recording or no?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me stop recording. Totally forgot to do that. Wait.